Welcome to the Lofi Cody Center for kids who can't produce good. My name's Cody, and today I want to teach you how to make your kicks not suck, to make them cut through the mix. I know when I was new to producing, a big struggle I had was having a kick that you could hear that would cut through the mix without just like cranking it and absolutely peaking my limiter and ruining my mix and having this unlistenable garbage track, which a lot of people just do, but you don't have to. I'm going to help you out. I'm going to give you all my secrets totally free on how to make kicks that slap. We're going to look at a project I've been working on here. This is some Zelda lo-fi cover remix-ness, and let's play it in the background for atmosphere. And I'm pretty well done. I've mixed and mastered a lot of it. There's a little bit to do, but I've backed off all of my kick treatment so that I can show you what I do to make a kick slap. And honestly, if you're listening, it's not bad. Like, the kick's there, you can hear it. For certain people's like style of lo-fi, that's fine. Like, that might be good on like a lo-fi girl study playlist type thing. I think they prefer that kind of really subtle, quiet kick, but I want my kick to pop. I want a banging kick. So we're gonna add some stuff, and the first thing we're gonna do is transient shaping. And you might be asking, what does a transient shaper do? Well, it shapes the transients. Come on. But no, what a transient shaper does is it affects the movement of the sound. It affects the sound over time. So I got this free one from Kilohertz. It's great. It works, and it's free. So I got it. But here, I'm going to solo my kick channel for a sec. Make sure that's nice and loud for y'all. And you've got three parts: beginning, middle, end. Your attack here is the initial hit. So if I crank it, hear that kick becomes really poppy, really punchy. If I pull it off, it's really mushy, like someone speaking without their teeth in. I like to have a little bit of a pop. I could probably get away with the mushy kick again for lo-fi, but I personally, the Lofi Cody sound, I like a little bit of pop. Now, the pump is an interesting one, because if you crank it, it lowers the middle of the sound. So you hear it kind of like boop, boop. It over time is dipping and coming back up. If I bring it all the way down, then you have this steady kind of sausage waveform. You can even tweak it a little bit, bring up the sustain, which is the last part, get that really thick sausage waveform, and that is going to sound louder. It's some thing in our brain that a sound at a certain volume will be perceivably louder if it's sustained. Whereas if someone walks in a room and claps their hand, or they shout really loud, and you have that moment of loudness, and then there's some like baby in the corner crying for like an hour, even if the baby's crying was quieter than the person shouting, the baby crying will seem louder because it's just sustained. So that's what we're doing with the kick over a short period of time. But I don't want to sausage my waveform here. That sounds weird. It does. But I like to have a little bit of pump because it just adds some character, a little bit of movement, and maybe it gets lost in the mix anyways. Like, here, let me unmute stuff again. But I know it's there, and we're really making music for ourselves, aren't we? Or to get rich, but good luck. But after transient shaping, like I said, add a little bit of that attack, a little bit of punch, makes it cut through a bit more. The next thing, and this is the secret sauce. This is what you came for. The like statistically 60 to 70% of people who stop watching YouTube videos too early, they missed this. So you're getting the good stuff. The next thing we want to do is soft clipping. And a lot of, those one stop, like those plugins that are like the Kick Betterer, Kick Destroyer Mac Prime. Those are just a transient shaper and maybe a soft clipper in one plugin. Like, you don't need to spend $400 for the David Guetta Signature Series Kick Maximizer Plus. It's just transient shaping and soft clipping. And this Kilohertz transient shaper actually has a soft clipper in it. But I don't know about you guys, So listen to this kick. I don't think that does anything. I don't know. Like, I'm sure there's some prodigy out there that's like, are you kidding me, man? You could totally hear how it's transversing the polarization of the initial frequencies. But to small brains like me, that doesn't do anything. So I'm going to add a second plugin for some good clipping action. And most DAWs will have some kind of soft clipper. In Ableton, actually, the saturator and the compressor both have soft clip options in them, which are pretty good. But I really like this dedicated plugin from Plugins That Knock called Clipper. And one of the big reasons is actually because it shows you this little waveform, which is going to help me explain what clipping is. Because clipping is similar to limiting, except that it sets a very hard limit. Ooh, I don't want to bump my mic. It's a very hard limit that sound can't go past. So what happens with your kick is that there's all these little frequencies and sort of anomalous noises and things that are hitting your limiters and your compressors and whatever else. They're technically loud, but they're not really the body of the kick. So if you can cut those down, which is what a hard clipper would do. If I drag this, great thing about this plugin, I drag this over to hard clipping, it shows you, it just cuts off the tip, because that's everything that's going to go over that threshold is going to get a hard cut. And that if we listen, that makes it kind of grungy, and it's pretty tame. Again, this is a well processed kick already, but it makes it kind of grungy, a little bit of like overdrive, whereas a soft clipper, instead just cutting off everything that goes over the threshold, it kind of folds it down. This kind of rolls it off, makes it nice and soft. It softly clips it. It does seem to be kind of the trend in a lot of YouTube producers to want their kick to sound like just ripping a fart in a stairwell. They want all that saturation and distortion so that people go, whoa, bro, your kick is so huge, it goes so hard. But for most of the music I make, I like the kick to be clean and punchy, so I favor soft clipping. But I'm sure some of you have thought at this point, bro, just turn up the volume of your kick channel. And while that technically works, and in fact I do run my kick track a little bit hotter than anything else in my lo-fi mixes, the reason why I don't just crank the gain becomes clearer when we look at the mixing and mastering phase. See, streaming services and just people in general have a volume threshold. Let me flip over here. We have a volume threshold when we listen to a track based on the part that's hurting our ears, right? So if you have your kick so loud that I have to turn down your song so that the kick isn't overwhelming my eardrums, the rest of your mix is just lost in the quiet. And this is even more a problem if you upload to somewhere like Spotify where they volume normalize. That means either you have to upload a really quiet track, which is gonna stand out on a playlist, it's gonna sound kind of amateur, or you have this kick that's way over the threshold and it's triggering this automatic compression they do, which is going to totally color your song, and it's going to sound way different from what you intended. And this is why we bother with transient shaping and soft clipping, and all this is to increase the perceived loudness of the kick without making it literally so much louder that the rest of your mix suffers and starts to sound muddy and nasty. And kind of one last note before I start showing you some master chain stuff. When you talk about mixing, and I'll do a separate video on mixing and mastering things, but one of the easiest tells for an amateur producer is when the bass, the low end, is just way too busy and muddy. You know, the sub is subby, the bass is subby, the kick is subby, the keys are subby, and the final mix ends up sounding like your upstairs neighbor vacuuming their hardwood floor, and it's fatiguing to listen to. You get tired listening to it. And the easy way to help fix this is going to be hard EQing and side chaining. So everything that isn't like a bass or a kick, like these chords here, I have a low cut, high pass filter, whatever you need to do, around 200 hertz. So nothing below that. I don't need any stray frequencies. I don't need anything else building up in that zone. The only thing that get to live in the sub 200 hertz zone is things like my kick and my bass. Another thing with the kick, with your bass, is if you throw a compressor here, side chain to your kick. This is pretty basic production stuff, but I feel like it's worth mentioning. It's gonna duck a little bit every time that kick hits, and just give it some breathing room. Give it space to live as the kick and be heard as the kick. And just doing that is gonna go a long way to clean up your mixes. Especially if you feel like you're just turning up your kick and it's not really getting any louder, it's just lost in the sauce and you can't hear it in any defined, pleasing way. Just learn to EQ and mix and give your kick some space. But anyways, here's my master chain. Say hello. I'm gonna do another video all about this, and it will probably look totally different because I'm always learning and changing my mind. But the thing we're gonna focus on today is my master compressor, and this is don't just copy these settings because they're probably bad, but this is what works with my whole chain and it works for me. But one thing you can copy is right here, there's a low frequency relax, and this is something that every compressor, well, every good compressor is going to have in some way or another. The Logic stock compressor I know has like internal side chaining. The Ableton stock compressor has an EQ. I'm sure Fruity Loops has some sort of Fruity Q thing going on, but in this Koltiknikov compressor, which is free and awesome. So if you just want another compressor besides your stock one, I highly recommend this. But it has this low frequency roll off, and I have it set at 200 hertz because I already just discussed it's probably overkill, but that's where I keep all my low end. So I'm gonna set it to 12 decibel cut and just listen to this. It already sounds better, right? Maybe that's imperceivable to you, but you'll be able to figure it out in time. But look, turn it off, and my kick is pumping my compressor. That means every time that kick hits, the kick's getting squashed, so it's coloring the kick, but it's also bringing down everything else, and it's causing the whole mix to bounce like a techno track, which if you're making techno might be great, but if for lo-fi and most other types of music, you don't want your whole track bouncing with your kick. But when I cut out everything, the only thing really triggering my compressor in a big way is my snare, and I'm okay with that. This is a stylistic decision I've made, that I like having my compressed snare, and I do the makeup game and all that. So now transient shaping, where's my kick channel? Transient shaping, clipping, sidechain your bass, hard EQ things, and then bypass your bass from your master compressor. And now we have a kick that slaps. It cuts through, you can hear it, but it's not deafening. It's not way louder than everything else. It's not distorting or muddying up the mix. And our track sounds less like we just made it in our mom's basement, even if that is technically true. So that's all my secrets. If you're liking this track, it will be out on streaming eventually. In the meantime, I've got lots of other music you can check out. Links in the place. Stay tuned. I've got a few more secrets up my sleeve that I'm gonna share with you guys, but take care.